Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown featuring the sulfur-crested cockatoo, the legend himself, up against VM's very own tank in a Wood Elf versus Beastmen showdown. This is quite a fun matchup now, I find. A lot of Wood Elf players tend to go mass cavalry, and we do have some cavalry, but the sulfur cockatoo has indeed brought arguably one of my favourite Wood Elf units. Probably not my favourite now I think about it, because War Dancers with Azrai Spears do exist, but we have the beloved Deepwood Scouts, who are a bit basic, but then we also have the Deepwood Scouts with Swift Shiver Shards. Now, Swift Shiver Shards are so much fun to use. They actually fire 2 arrows at a time. To counteract this, they have shorter range and they have magic attacks as well, which can be a little bit niche. In some matchups that's good and some matchups that's bad, but we have a load of Deepwood Scouts along the battle line mixed in with these Swift Shivers as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rangers total. I believe 2 of them are Swift Shivers and the rest are the basic scouts. To help protect them, we have some cavalry in the form of Glade Riders. So we have Glade Riders with spears all the way along the battle line. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 units. And just ahead of them, we have the Sisters of Thorn. Now, I spoke of the Sisters of Thorn relatively recently, being one of the most underrated skirmish cav units in the entire game. They're actually surprisingly tanky despite their 15 armor due to their physical resistance, which we have a little look down here. There's a pretty big whopping 40%, and they also come in with the Curse as well as Shield of Thorns, 2 very powerful bound abilities. In the main battle line, we do have a couple of units of Eternal Guard of Shields, and then a load of Dryads to help back them up, including the Wraiths of the Frozen Heart. And leading the battle line today, we have the dreaded Drycha, the Queen of Evil and Sass in Athaloran, coming in with the Pendulum, Enfeebling Foe, and Melkoff's Mystifying Miasma. That summon can be relatively useful. You can save it to late game, or you can use it early on to push into the enemy back line. Now, for the forces of the Beastie Boys, we do have a load of Centaurs, as is the standard now. We have triple Centaurs and then triple Centaurs with throwing axes, a nice counter to the Wood Elf skirmish. We have double Razorgore herds on this flank, supported by a load of Ungors and Ungor spears across the main battle line. I don't think we have any of the Regiment Renowned, it is just the basic geezers. A couple of Ungor Raiders in the back, 1, 2, 3, and leading the battle line shall be a Brave Shaman of Death with Spirit Leech and Morga the Shadowgave. Morga the Shadowgave, still very competitive. Don't let Taurox fool you, though Taurox is amazing and very powerful. Morga the Shadowgave, likewise, can still do a pretty decent number. He's tanky, he has that glorious regen and those useful Chaos Spawn summons to pin in enemy cavalry and characters. We also have Brave Shaman of Wild Magic down here with Traitorkin to help support his troops. Without further ado, let's get this battle underway. Centaurs immediately burst forth like a swarm of angry bees, looking to get to grips with the Wood Elf forces. Of course, they cannot see the Deepwood Scouts, who are currently all hidden, but I'm sure he's well aware that what he can see isn't his opponent's full build. So he probably expects Way Watchers or some form of Deepwood Scouts or other elvish trickery. Deepwood Scouts can be pushing forward. Now, I actually think all round these Scouts are brilliant against Beastmen. Much like Shadow Warriors, they have a lot of long-range damage potential. They also have the hidden ability, so they're kind of stalked and you don't know exactly where they are, and they're basically good against everything in the Beastmen roster, minus the odd unit like Taurox the Brass Bull, because they don't have the greatest damage output, but firing those double volleys plus all those volleys from the normal Deepwood Scouts can really do some massive damage and tear apart lightly armored forces if you can protect them, and that's kind of the big key. If you can protect your Deepwood Scouts, they will protect you back. So a couple more volleys are being unleashed now into the thrown axes, which is a nice choice, and the Glade Riders are going to be moving back in a swift retreat. They're going to have to commit to some fight though, because you can see there's quite a big distance from the high ground where the Deepwood Scouts realistically want to be. They've wandered quite far, so some of the skirmish cav is going to get sacrificed here to pin in the Centaurs. Trading okay, not too terrible here. With the support of the bows though, they should be able to trade a little bit better. Glade Riders intercepting those Centaurs with thrown axes is going to be a lovely catch right now for the Wood Elf forces. If they can get rid of those thrown axes, hopefully they'll start to gain map mobility control. Deepwood Scouts are unleashing shot after shot now, doing some really nice work into the Ungor Spearheads, just getting them off the battlefield as quickly as possible, and the rest of the shots aiming at those Centaurs with thrown axes in the central pocket of the battlefield. But the Wood Elf lines are crumbling. Almost all of their skirmish cav is getting run over right now, and the Centaurs are having a good time. They've taken quite a lot of punishment. We can see 3 units are breaking off, but now they're getting into that juicy underbelly of this Wood Elf build, which is those Deepwood Scouts. One of the Swift Shiver Shards has indeed been caught, and a lovely use of Spirit Leech goes down on the Sisters of Thorn, who don't actually have that many models, so it's pretty good to get rid of them as quickly as possible. Eternal Guard are going to move up. It looks like the Deepwood Scouts are just about going to be making it to safety, though some of them are really struggling right now. Centaurs are being forced back due to the presence of Dryads and Eternal Guard. However, the Razorgore herds drive straight into the heart of the enemy battle lines, start running over all their troops, and you can see quite a few dead sisters on the ground, and Drycha is now surrounded by the angry bacon. But the Deepwood Scouts have managed to make it to safety for the most part. It does look like one of the units of Swift Shivers unfortunately has gone down, but the rest, oh no, they're both fine actually, and they're still unleashing deadly salvos into the Razorgore herds, doing some relatively decent work. But that is a thin green line right now for the Wood Elves, holding back the tides of Beastmen. We'd love to see these Gore herds and other units just keep rotating around the flanks, and it looks like that's just what Tank's going to be doing. Centaurs driving past the Dryads and overwhelming the Eternal Guard before pushing in onto the Deepwood Scouts, both the basic and the Swift Shivers, doing some nice work. We do have some lovely counter shots as well, shooting across range, and the returning Glade Riders charging in with a suicidal charge, a battle cry on their lips. They jump on those Centaurs, doing some relatively decent damage there. Now, the Dryads will do okay up against Gore herds. Unfortunately, there is a big old explosion of chaotic power, and the Chaos Spawn are birthed into the world once more. They can certainly do some nice work onto these Dryads and clear out the infantry, which is one thing the Beastmen may start to struggle with here. Morgan the Shadowgave, as well as the Brave Shaman, are vibing in the middle of the battlefield. Looks like the Brave Shaman of Death has taken quite a few salvos of shots, but he won't mind too much, as it's not going to be like Waywatcher kind of snipe potential, but still doing some okay damage nonetheless. In the back lines, we can see some sneaky Dryads have managed to force their way back onto the Ungor Raiders, which is really good news. If you can start shutting down these ranged troops, it's going to force the Beastmen to detach cavalry units to come back and save them or lose them for good. We've also got quite a few Beastmen units now who can be reactivated once they have come back from their fleeing position. Although it looks like at the moment Tank's micro is elsewhere. As you can see, the Brave Shaman of Death is being forced off by Dryacha. Chaos Spawn are slowly going down, and more volleys are coming in from the Deepwood Scouts. It looks like the Wood Elf player has managed to stabilize his back line, which is massive right now as shot after shot is being poured in, but he's basically run out of blocking troops. The Dryads are getting run down. We have this unit of 50 Dryads going down very quickly, and a load of Haggard cavalry who is going to come in for a nice surround with the Eternal Guard, trying to drag down the Chaos Spawn and break the heart of this kind of initial push from the Beastmen. However, Morgan the Shadowgave doesn't really care about low tier infantry. Drycha's going to get in there and have to teach him a bit of a lesson. Ungor Raiders are unleashing their own volleys now back towards the Wood Elves. A little bit less accurate, I would argue, but still, hey, they've got one thing going for them, and that's a bucket ton of numbers, though that is starting to dwindle as the Deepwood Scouts turn their attention to them. Gore herds trying to circumvent around these Eternal Guard and the main fight, as well as the Centaurs, just to push up and around and start shutting down the range elements, who are doing a really good job so far, just continuing to lay shots into the Ungors, as well as the Centaurs, and more Centaurs starting to pour through the gap, and we are running dangerously low on ammunition now for a lot of these Deepwoods, though they do manage to shatter off some more Centaurs there. And in the main fight, it does seem like Drycha's doing a fantastic job up against Morga. Enfeebling Foe goes down, and we had a Shield of Thorns as well from those sisters, helping Drycha out in this main fight, and she is beating the snot out of the Shadowgave right now, which is glorious to see with that Enfeebling Foe popped. But remember, he does have regeneration, so he can certainly come back in the later stages of the game. The cavalry is swooping in as well, trying to break Morga, and they need to escort him off the battlefield because there's still so many Beastmen units, which are kind of just sitting in reserve right now, waiting for the Ungor Raiders to dish out the pain onto the sisters and other elements beforehand. We are going to see a big fat pendulum come down the line. It shall catch the Ungor Raiders before they start to waver and run away once more. And Drycha considered moving forward, but I think they really want to hunt down Morgan the Shadowgave. It looks like all those Centaurs and Razorgores once again have been reactivated and are starting to push in to try to save their lord. I'd like to see quite a few units commit to this fight, but get another couple to move up and around behind the enemy. It looks like Drycha was about to do her Dryad summon, and then she cancelled it last second. You saw the little animation start there, but it looks like she gave up on that. And the Razorgores are finally going to get their wish of hunting down the Deepwood Scouts, but it's a little bit late. They've used up all their ammunition, apart from these tuners in the back. However, justice shall be served. This is for all the innocent Beastmen, the Goatmen, all of those glorious piggies you killed. We're going to come in here and do some decent damage, and then we're going to run away and flee because we realise we're kind of outnumbered rather heavily. Brave Shaman of the Wild is going to pop onto the Deepwood Scouts now. Morgan Shadowgave is doing a nice cheeky retreat, trying to get away from the battlefield for as long as possible so he can regenerate his HP. Ungor Raiders are just about holding on against the last 8 Sisters of Thorn, who do pop a Shield of Thorns down, looking to try to protect themselves. I think they get 2 cards of that over the course of the battle and 1 of the Curse, but it looks like they are routed. Just as those Centaurs come crashing in, the Sisters are again butchered to the last elf. There may be one survivor just to go tell the tale that you don't F with the Beastmen. Brave Shaman of the Wild is rather isolated. He's trying to push into the back line and get on top of the juicy Deepwood Scouts, and a lovely Traderkin goes down. Catches all of the Deepwood Scouts here, slowing them down, buying time for the Razorgore herds to come in and do some really nice damage. This unit of Deepwood Scouts has started to rout, and only a couple more to go, and it does all of a sudden look quite favourable for the Beastmen. I thought the Wood Elves did such a good job protecting their back line, but if we have a little look around, there's not much left. It's basically Drycha and a load of ranged units who have no ammunition, and Centaurs are reaving amongst their ranks. Charge them in the rear, break them off, and Razorgores as well are being used to hunt down routing troops. This is the way to play this late game here. Use up all your ammunition on your Ungor Raiders and just cycle charge this blob to death. But Drycha is a tough cookie and certainly has potential here to fight back. Eternal Guard are retreating towards the enemy, so I guess they're advancing in a different direction is the best way to put that. Centaurs do break here as well, and these Ungors need to be protected. I'd like to see some of the Centaurs and Razorgores come back and just ensure that all these Ungors are allowed to use up their ammunition. That's just what Tank is going to do here. He kind of comes in, baits out attack, falls back again, and this is buying more and more time for the Ungor Raiders. It is, you know, the time of the Elf is over. The time of the Beastman is now. It is our time to shoot you in the face, and it's in the later stages of the game. Balance power is heavily in favor right now of the Beastmen forces as more and more Deepwood Scouts do fall to the crooked shafts there of the Ungor Raiders. A lovely pendulum, though, is missed by Tank. He doesn't actually get out of the way quick enough, and that killed quite a lot of Ungor Raiders. That's certainly going to help out, and more Ungors are starting to fall back and run for their life. Deepwood Scouts desperately moving forward to try to deal with these Raiders, but I don't think, realistically, anything's going to be able to shut them down here. The Ravens of the Frozen Heart did come back to the battlefield. They got ice in their veins and they kept it cool and calm. And as they do so, they get killed and only a couple left to go away. But they managed to shatter some Razorgore herds. Hey, and that's 5 Razorgores. That's a decent amount of damage output. Beastmen going to continue to kite back, which is 100% what they should be doing right now. Just trying to get these Ungor Raiders back into the battlefield. And this is going to be buying more and more time, not only for Morga to start regenerating, but also their Winds of Magic. If they can pop another Traderkin, that's going to be so clutch in the later stages of the game. Both Ungor Raiders have started to come back, and it looks like they're just about going to be in range. Yeah, so they're starting to shoot in now after the Deepwood Scouts, so we're going to start running downhill towards them and applying some of that pressure. But they've done a good job, the Scouts. Unfortunately for them, it's looking a little bit bleak. It looks like they're both the basic Deepwood Scouts, so the Swift Shivers, they used up their ammo, and they were like, you know what, we're going to peace out right now and start to retreat. But another lovely pendulum is once again hit by Drycha onto the Ungor Raiders, and this is getting really painful for the Beastmen. They've lost 2 units of Raiders to those shots, and they all had decent levels of ammunition left. But will it matter? Because the Deepwood Scouts are now getting ramrodded through by the Razorgore herds. Centaurs are forced back, but likewise so are the Deepwood Scouts, and it could come down to a duel between Drycha, the Brave Shaman, and Morga the Shadowgave. Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Darth Maul there, all going at it. Ungor Raiders are still alive, but in the late game, we do have the Dryad summon. Something I had actually completely forgotten about. We saw it nearly cast earlier and it was cancelled, so in comes the Dryad summon. I remember when you could actually bring 2 Dryad summons with Drycha, which looking back was actually a little bit crazy. So the Razorgore herds are being forced back. More are committing to the fight. Morga is going to be trying to pull back and away from this fight as much as possible and just use up his ammunition, but he's going to be taking considerable damage right now. These guys do magic attacks and have pretty decent stats. 14 melee attack is certainly no joke, and unfortunately the Razorgores are starting to shatter. The Brave Shaman is going to be falling back. Drycha doesn't know which enemy to commit to, but looks like she is eventually going to go after the Shadowgave, and the balance of power is dead even once more, and that's going to encourage these Deepwood Scouts to rally to Drycha and come back into the main fight. Ungor Raiders are doing a decent job firing him. Looks like they're just going to be aiming at probably Dreich now. Any damage you can get on her, the better, as Morga does retreat. Now the Brave Shaman, he whirls and twirls his staff in arcs of destruction, cracking the skulls of these Deepwood scouts and shattering them for good. Dreich Summon is about to wear out, but can they finish off these Ungor raiders before they do so? That timer is certainly starting to tick down. They've got 8 seconds left to do it, and they do shatter the Ungor raiders. That is a beautiful use of their time there. Get them off the battlefield and try to come over here and assist. I don't think realistically they're going to get back to the main action. Dreich is going toe-to-toe with the Shadowgave right now, and I do believe she's a bit of a better melee combatant, but he does apply poison and have that regeneration, and he's got a little ally. In comes the Brave Shaman. There is just 3 models left on the battlefield that can actually fight. I think we have some Deepwood scouts, but they're not going to be able to make it back to the battlefield with their low morale and HP. So it does come down to the ultimate duel of duels. Dreich taking on the Brave Shaman, and Morga is just kind of trying to, it looks like Cycle Charge almost, but I think he's just trying to regen a little bit up. He does come in, ramming his heavy horns into the thick bark of Dreich, and they're kind of trampling over her as well. Now, in these instances, when you have single entities left fighting, normally numbers does win. Numbers often is actually better than the power level, just because you're getting 2 hits in over and over again, and also it can mess up the attack animations of the lone single entity trying to attack 2 models instead of 1. But Dreich is doing a good job. Morgan the Shadowgave down to 1100 HP. It might be worth killing this Shaman really quick, because it only has 700 HP, 1 or 2 good hits from Dreich, and it's going to go down. And it has been doing some pretty decent work staggering her, but a big slap there brings the Brave Shaman down to the 313 HP, and is starting to break there. Morgan the Shadowgave is actually wavering right now. Can the dreaded Lady of Evil pull it out the bag? Roots have been spurted out of the ground from the desert somehow, entangling the Shadowgave and lowering his leadership to naught. It is so close. She's just about holding in, and Morga is starting to break. Can he hold on? His leadership does recover a little bit. Then bam, straight down, a big slap to the face. He whacks her down and then makes a quick exit and a tactical retreat. A Pyrrhic victory for the forces of the Wood Elves. Very, very close stuff though. That could have gone either way. Well played to Tank, as well as the Sulphur-Crested Cockatoo, who I believe is actually the norm of Clan DBD, the best clan I may put out there. Totally not biased, considering I am part of DBD. But well played to these 2 guys, both really fun builds actually. I love the high mobility and intensity of Tank's build. Very fast, very mobile, and just kind of that swarm style of a play. And somehow though, Lenorm kept those Deepwood scouts firing and kept them dishing out the pain, and I'm sure they all probably paid for themselves, or at least the majority of them did. So we're going to hop in to the damage dealt and damage value. Oh my god, Dreich with 3,200 damage value. That is insane. Well, we're going to hop into the damage dealt and damage value of all of these units in just a second. But before we get there, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a big fat juicy thumbs up. Subscribe as well for more Total War Warhammer content into the future. And feel free to comment down below. So I have once again changed my settings on my microphone. The last 3 videos I have been sorting out my microphone. I'm turning the gain down more and more, but hopefully my voice is still loud enough. I know with too much gain on it can kind of pop and go a bit crazy, so I've turned it down a little bit more, and we're just going to continue to experiment. So I really appreciate the feedback you guys have been given in the comment section. For the most part, it seems like people really like the new mic, so that's certainly good. I'll probably put a poll up at some point as well on the channel just to double check that, but it looks like it's all good. There's links as well down below in the description to my Twitch channel, so you can check out some more content I do there. It is sometimes Total War based, sometimes it's not. I might do a stream today, I might not, I don't know. It's just extra content, basically. Also links to my Discord where you can submit replays to me, just like Sulphur-Crested Cockatoo did. And if you guys don't know how to submit replays, just let me know and I'll happily do a video on it. Anyway, back to the battle. Dreich, the dreaded Lordress of Darkness, Athaloran's sassy salamander and evil tree lady, 3,223 damage value. Take a bark hat off. That was amazing. 142 kills, over 19k damage dealt, nearly 20k actually. She was quite frankly outstanding. As for the Deepwood Scouts, it looks like the basic Deepwood Scouts got 972 damage value, 909 and 1,089. That is really good work. And the Swift Shiver Shards, 1,162 damage value and 1,278. So they did actually perform a bit better than their basic Deepwood Scout brethren, which is quite impressive considering the Swift Shivers got forced off earlier than the basic Deepwood Scouts. But is it worth the cost increase? Normally not, I would say, but it's still very cool, and I think in certain matchups like this one, the Swift Shiver Shards can still perform really good, and also that magic gives them a nice niche up against forces, such as the Vampirates, for example. Sisters of Thorn did a relatively okay job, 400 damage value, doesn't reflect their true potential. They had some nice bound ability spells at the correct times, supporting Drycha and dragging down Morga the Shadowgave, and as for the Glade Riders, 350, 244, 299, and 193 damage value. Basically nothing. They were sacrificial roadblocks to the slaughter, and they did their job, but they died doing it. Sonar Guard, 300 damage value, 390, 506, 587, 407 for the Dryads. So yeah, the infantry and cavalry did basically nothing. It was all about the Deepwood Scouts and the Drycha tag team there. The tank, Morga the Shadowgave, 1,277 damage values, lovely. 1.3k on the Brave Shaman of Wild and 515 on the Brave Shaman of Death. That Traderkin is so powerful, and I also like the use here of the double caster. I think that's always good against Wood Elves in case you start to get sniped out. Good work all the characters did relatively solid, but particularly these two here. 96 kills is very nice as well. The infantry fared pretty poorly, as is expected, in the very low hundreds for damage value. 500, 288, and 537 damage value on the Ungor Raiders. A big missed opportunity in the end, I think, there. He was obviously focusing on Morga Micro to try to hunt down Drycha, but those pendulums in the late game really were quite hurtful to the Beastmen cause. Centigores, 880 damage value, 555, 697, and then for the Thrown Axes, only 129 damage value, but then 740, 359, okay kills across the board. Red Squad Piggies, 700 value and 600 value, certainly isn't too shabby for summer soon-to-be bacon. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.